Being an HSP in a relationship is one of the more difficult journeys of self-discovery, I will say, for myself. It most likely is for you. And this is for anybody that's on either side of it. If you're an HSP or if you're not an HSP, a highly sensitive person. In the past videos, we got into the phrasing of that. I'm not quite fully comfortable with highly sensitive, giving a meritocratic measurement to it. However, we're just gonna use that for now. But also, the information in the past 3 videos, which is in the playlist in the description below, you will find more information that leads and lends to what we're talking about today. And the 3 takeaways that I'm gonna give you just right off the bat before we jump into everything and the story is 1, be careful of enmeshing your identity with your partner. 2, journal. I'm an advocate for journaling. And lastly, 3, identify your needs. And the way that I just phrased these, you may not think that you may have taken them differently than I actually mean them. So let's break those down. First off, being a highly sensitive person in a relationship is a very, I will say, heightened situation, because when you're in a situation like that, as we've discussed in the past videos, the colors feel brighter, the noises feel louder, the tones feel heavier. And when you're with somebody else and you're receiving this external situation where you're having sometimes a mirror bounce off of you, or sometimes you're having, it sounds like, neighbors setting off fireworks, like, whoa, what was that? You're surprised by things, you are sometimes terrified by things, and there's just a lot going on. And I am always going to tell you to get back to 1. In film, we have this saying, if you work in film, they say action, you act out the scene, and they say cut. All right, everybody back to 1. Back to 1 means your original starting spot. And for HSPs in relationships, or anybody in these relationships, you have to find your way back to 1, which is you. It's you, it's right here. And what can happen, what can be mistaken with a lot of HSPs in relationships is reading into things too much, over dramatizing something, taking everything personally, creating lots of stories around something that really doesn't have a story to it. It's like, well, why wouldn't you park over there? Why wouldn't, what? There can be a lot of connotations added to something where there are no connotations needed for it. And I get it. And there's a reason for that. We'll get into it in a little bit in this video. But first understand there's a lot of miscommunications that are happening. I won't say mistakes, but a lot of miscommunications. And with those miscommunications can lead you down a road that is going to end in debacle, arguments, some type of high conflict, and when it doesn't feel great to be misunderstood. I mean, one of the biggest things that we go after as humans is being loved, being heard, being understood, feeling seen, all these things. And when we don't feel that with our partner, it feels like an extreme act of almost abandonment a little bit. And I know that word is over dramatized, or it might be heavy or too much, or maybe disproportionate to what's happening. But that is the feeling. That is the feeling. Intent versus impact. It can still hit like something you did not intend, but oh my goodness, it absolutely feels that way. Oh my goodness, I can't believe they didn't understand me when I said that. This is my partner. How did they not know? And the first thing to understand, and I go back to Esther Perel, is our partners in relationships today are different than they initially were 30, 50, 80 years ago. Back in the day, people had entire villages that they spoke to, their neighbors, they had people that they talked to around them. Today, a lot of people expect their partner to be everybody. They expect them to be their best friend, the gossiper, their confidant, their workout buddy, all these things. And it gets to a place where it is not based in the reality and capacity that humans have. And so the expectations, first and foremost, you have to check those at the door. Please check your expectations at the door. Or just give them a look over and say, okay, am I doing it right here? I'm not quite sure. So take all of that and let's get into this really quickly. The first thing, do not enmesh your identity with your partner. Be very careful of this. And I'll read what I have written down. Feel the feeling and know that it is not your identity. And a lot of time with HSPs, we can feel like what happened is solely our fault. We're guilty for it. Oh my goodness, this is us. And then, depending on the person, the next steps or actions after that will be, as they'll essentially spiderweb out from that guilt or a feeling of shame or feeling of being unseen. And so now you're dealing with a derivative of the actual core issue. Now, as we get further and further out there, we're 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. We're just continuing to go out like it's not at this point. It has no gravity and it's baseless, and whatever reactions we're reacting to, we're seeing ghosts out there, and it can get extremely just foundationless. So we're now responding to something that we've already responded to. So it's an echo chamber. When you are in a relationship, this goes for anybody, one of the healthiest steps, and we talk about this in therapy all the time, is to have a sense of your own identity. And when you see a lot of relationships lose their identity, their independent identity, and they create this, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, as we talked about over a decade ago and then about 10 months ago, create this coagula of identity. And you're no longer the people you are, you're now the brand or the company name, whatever that may be. And it's important to still retain your sense of identity. A great thing that I heard from a therapist was the most successful couples look like the most boring couples. They are who they are, and they're still themselves. They go about how they go about it. There's not this enmeshment of identity where I am you and you are me, and I can't believe that we would do this. You have to retain your sense of identity while in this situation. Otherwise, you are trying to control something that is not, you have no control over. Right now, I'm looking at a train going across a train track. And to put it into the context of a relationship, every train going by here is different. Each cart is different. To say that they're all the same thing, I mean, there's different trains going at different speeds. It's like, if all of them were to think that they were the same, there would be there'd be a crash. They'd be derailing off and going like everywhere. That's the same thing with people. There is non-duality where we all have similar origin, and we're all, we kind of affect each other in every movement that we make and everything that we do. However, we all lead different lives. And so you have to maintain a sense of identity. I don't know if the train analogy worked out, but it was close. I think I was very close. But you have to maintain your sense of identity, your sense of independent identity while in this situation, because as HSPs, that's the whole point, is we feel like we feel things to a level that it's only us a lot of times that can feel that, and it's not to say that nobody else can feel that deeply as we do. It's just to say, even in a room full of, if the entire room was full of HSPs, everybody's going to still be feeling differently, and they're going to have a different way of feeling. Maybe it's, stimulus to light, to sound, to words. We don't know, but the whole point being is that you have to understand that you're still unique and independent in the way that you feel throughout the world and the way that you hold your big feelings in the space that you carve out for your big feelings, to the point that you can't expect anybody outside of you to be entirely in choreography with that, in tandem with that. Like, we're not all in a rowboat. So you have to, and even in a rowboat, everybody's stroking differently. But these analogies, they're just crazy. But the point is that you have to get you have to engage with the fact that you're your own person and you're two people together. And when you try to enmesh identities, you're asking for, you're putting it in an impossible situation. And you're putting it in a situation where you can't be really in a functional relationship. So you have to, again, maintain your sense of identity, independence, and what makes you an HSP. There's no need to enmesh it with somebody else. Journaling. Now, what journaling does is it gives us our first step towards creating a dialogue with ourself, and I want to say a window to the externalized world, because we're not dealing with anything external. We're just having a dialogue with ourselves, which is an extremely healthy thing to do. And you're also putting it out there. You're physically putting the words down on a page, which again is very cathartic. What happens when you journal is you're detaching yourself from the externalized situation, and you're taking up whatever it is that you're feeling right now and giving it no judgment, no shame, no guilt, no nothing, and just putting it on a page. The page is an inanimate object, and you're just having a dialogue with it, which is yourself. And when you're doing that, you're in a sense doing an act of reclamation of your own identity. You're bringing it back. You're bringing everything back. And when you continually do that, when we talk about prayer, when we talk about meditation, why do people have their eyes closed when they're praying or they're meditating? They're going back inside, shutting the door, as some people would say. You have to shut the door and go back to one. You got to get back to one, or at least reflect on what's going on. And maybe you might feel a little bit embarrassed, like, oh man, I did say that. Weird. Write it down. The page ain't gonna judge you. The page is not going to judge you. Write it down. And in journaling, what else I've written down here? Externalizing the feeling isn't the solution or need sometimes. Other people cannot be your canvas for your feelings. And a lot of times as HSPs, we end up, and I see this all the time, you'll see creatives or artists, they then start to dial down their actual creativity and art, and they're pouring all their energy and time into this person. So now we have a situation where somebody has given up their unique gifts just to be enmeshed in this situation. And it's not the other partner's fault, and it's not their fault. It's just they're giving up something that is that is independent of themselves, that is their own unique gift, and they're putting it somewhere else. Almost like gambling a little bit. They're throwing their money out there and hoping that the cards or the numbers reflect back something that they'll win more than they already had. But what they don't know is that the prize is already themselves. So you're gambling, or you're investing in this externalized situation when it's already you. You're already the prize. Journal this out, like really talk this out. And you'll be a better partner for it, but you have to be a better partner to yourself before you can be a better partner to anybody else outside of you. Okay, number 3, identify your needs. This is huge. When I said that in the beginning, I want to ask you a question. When I first said that, identify your needs, did you take that statement as me saying identify your needs to your partner, or identifying your needs to yourself? Okay, what I did mean was identify your needs to yourself. Be honest with yourself. What is it that you need in a relationship? Like just write it down. What is it that you feel you need in a relationship? If it's bonus, if it's something that makes you better, it's not something you need. It just makes the day a little brighter. What would you need from a relationship? Somebody that's going to be on time? Somebody that's going to be honest? Somebody that has integrity? And these are base level things. We can build on that too. We can ask for more as well. We can say our base level needs, and then we can build off of that. But what is it that you need for yourself? And then here's the catch to all the things I just said. How can you be that as well? How can you be all those things? And even without a relationship, we'll go a step further. So let me rewind a little bit. Identifying the needs that you require or necessitate in a relationship is huge, because you're making the declaration of what you want, what you need to be in a relationship. You're stating the demands. You're naming the requirements. Going a step further, can you provide those same needs? Are we being a hypocrite in saying what we want? I want you to be on time, but I can't be on time. What is it that you can you hold to those as well? And then lastly, are those things that you can give to yourself while not even in a relationship? Be, do, have. Are you being the person that's going to do the thing and then can have the things? And the last part, that's just a byproduct. Having it is, you'll have it once you start being it. And then doing it is actually a big deal as well, because you have to be the person, you attract who you are, is what I've been told. And whoever you're being is what you're going to attract. And that is, when I look back at my entire life, that is really what has happened. And it's strange, and it feels like a paradox sometimes when looking back at some of these situations. And it's just one of those strange ways that the universe works. And I think that you have to take inventory of that as somebody who's an HSP or in a relationship with an HSP. And I'll give you a very quick story about how I operate or operated in relationships. I had I was enamored with the movie Shakespeare in Love. And I saw the way Joseph Fiennes, was it Joseph Fiennes? I think it was Joseph Fiennes. Yeah. It was Joseph Fiennes in Shakespeare in Love. And he just said these beautiful words to Gwyneth Paltrow. Oh my goodness. And he just held words in this very careful way. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to talk like that. Like, I want to be able to express myself like that. And I found myself speaking, this is in high school, mind you, speaking like that to my significant other in high school. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then something happened in junior, senior year. We'd split up, and I went to a poetry slam. And I found that this diehard romantic that I had started on the journey, to be, or this ability that I wanted to get, I could just do it within storytelling. And I could do it with a slam poem or a spoken word piece or a song. I started to hone this skill to the point of like really no return. This is kind of like how my writing has gone since then. I want to write beautiful, pretty, awesome things, and I also want to be able to write those to my partner as well. And to do that, I would have to just cut the vulnerability, be honest with myself, have utmost integrity. And it didn't happen all the time in every single relationship, but I knew that was the core of who I am and how I want to operate within a relationship. And so with all that being said, I definitely found out what my needs were. And so in that story, when I simply just, I don't even know how to say it. It was more so, it was this joyous discovery of, I love this. This is what I want. I want this every time. I'm gonna choose this every single time. This is what I want. Then, when I was X miles away from that, kind of like in the sense of like when NASA is navigating, they have a ship out there navigating. It navigates by how far off the track it is, so it's like going back and forth. I had that baseline where I was like, okay, this is where I'm going. And when I was off it, I was like, whew, this relationship, I am not being the person I want to be to have the relationship that I want. And so as an HSP, I really wanted to, and what I've practiced doing is journaling and then always checking in with myself regarding, my writing and my creativity, and where is that pouring into? Am I holding that back from my partner? Am I holding that back from myself? Where am I at in relation to me as a creative and all these things that I really love and hold dear? Then I'm able to navigate being a great partner, not only to my partner, but to myself as well. And so just checking in with those things has made me way better. And ever since watching Shakespeare in Love with Joseph Fiennes, I was just like, okay, it wasn't even about the movie. It was just like getting to the point where you were being enmeshed, overdoing it. Like, whoa, bro, poem a week, poem a day, a little bit much. Let's back up. To the point that it was like, well, who am I writing for? And where is all this creative energy coming from? And how can you hone it and distill it into a relationship? And what does it have to do with the relationship? And so really that was a big, kind of story and journey of self-discovery, to figuring out how you can, discover yourself, but then also use it kind of as a gift in the relationship. And it always gave me like a means of going back to one, checking in with that. And then also when I was really far off from it, it was a very, very clear indicator of if I even wanted to be in a relationship or not. So there you are. There's so much more we can say about it. We will say more about relationships and in regards of highly sensitive people in them. Yeah, they're tricky. They're very tricky, and they're tough. They're tough. Those are the two things I can tell you right now. They're tricky and tough. And not everybody, sometimes it's just a season. And I know you don't want to hear that. But either way, the sun is going down on this video. So speaking of seasons, speaking of days, that's the end of this video. And if you have any other takeaways other than be careful of getting enmeshed, journal, and what was the third one? And identifying your needs, what are some other things that you've noticed as being an HSP in relationships or being in a relationship with somebody who's an HSP that have helped you out in the function of your relationship? All right, I'm out of here. We'll see you in the next one.